But I'd like to thank my colleagues from Dell Storage because without me, all that super fast, really cool storage, if your network is no good, your storage is going to be no good. If your network cannot handle the traffic that it generates between your different storage and your servers and your users, if you cannot handle it, and if you have a cheap, unreliable network, it doesn't matter. So you've got to build a really good network. So today, Dell showed you the different components. Is this mic a little loud? Am I loud? I'm going to be really loud. We showed you today the fluid architecture. Other sessions, if you come to Dell, you'll see us talk about the servers and the client products. What I'm going to talk about is our virtual networking architecture, VNA, a term you're going to hear from Dell. And it's really about building a very, very highly reliable, always on, always available network. Yes, I used to be a model. So, you know, when cameras come, I have to be careful. Okay. Thank you. So, how many of you in here are responsible for your network also? All right, a couple of good people. Good. How many of you have ever heard of Force 10? All right, before the acquisition. So I come from the Force 10 acquisition, and it's been very exciting for me. One of the nice things about the acquisition has been Dell's resources and being able to build a really strong team, especially here in India. When we, as Force 10 in India, we only have 2 or 3 people. Now we've got about 750 people supporting us, and it's very, very exciting. We've built our R&D center in Chennai from 200 people. We're about 250 now. We're trying to get to about 1,200 people in the next year. So we're really building a lot of good resources here. And I want to talk about things that are simple. Networking can be very complicated, but I come from a world of Web 2.0 companies. I've built data centers all over Asia. I've lived in Mumbai, a little bit in Bangalore, in Malaysia, China. I'm actually from China, born in there. So I'm a bit like Alvin, you know, a bit mixed up. That's not my fault. It's my parents' fault. So I want to talk about how you build a reliable network. The problem we have, so those of you who haven't heard of us, so Force 10 has been around about 11 years. We had a lot of very big Web 2.0 companies. People like, anybody heard of Facebook before? Yeah, I don't know, you know. Some of these, you know, maybe you don't Twitter. But if you do Twitter, how many Twittered or Facebooked in the last 24 hours? I want to thank all of you for being Force 10 Dell customers because your traffic went across our networks. So thank you for generating more, so we can get them to buy more. People like ConocoPhillips doing high-performance computing. What is high-performance computing? That's really lots of data going through lots of really fast computers, and it has to give me a lot of big results. And we'll talk, ConocoPhillips does seismographic testing, or you know, they send the seismic back and it's got to see if there's oil there. These machines are moving, so they're very, very fast. They require some very, very fast computing. In India, we do a lot of customers, Tata being one of our biggest ones. But what I want to talk about is all of this is changing. How many have been in IT more than 10 years? Okay, so you guys know what a 48650 is, right? You know, things are changing. Storage and networking all used to be really, really simple. And then somebody decided to virtualize a server. And then somebody decided to virtualize storage. And now we're virtualizing the network. So I've got a virtualized, and the desktops, of course, are going to be virtualized. Still, you know, Windows 8 having hypervisor built into it for the desktop even. You know, so everything's virtual now. The question is, how do I, as an IT guy, manage all this? So all of you who have many years experience, you know we used to have one server with one Ethernet port with one IP address going to one switch, which went to, and the storage was inside that device. Right? We didn't have this big, so maybe, you know, later on we had, you know, NAS, And it was very easy to manage because that NAS was just for exchange, and this one was just for sales, and this one was just for finance. It was easy. Now, because of virtualization, everything is becoming complicated. So what we really need are the tools to do this. So I'm going to talk about what the changes are in the data center. And the number one change you're going to find in the data center in the next few years is OPEX versus CAPEX. You're going to see the change. First problem we have. In India, the power and electricity has gone down how many percent in the last year? Oh, it hasn't gone down. Yeah, it's going up. So one of your big OPEX issues is your cost of power. The next one is real estate. How much space? How much compute can I put in this space? I could put one PC with one CPU, one core, or can I put 100 core in the same space? The next one I have is people. How many are getting more people in your department? How many are getting less? Now, that's the CFO. CFO has told you no power, less real estate, less people. The CEO and the sales director are telling you, you better be up 100% of the time or I'll fire you. Apps better be ready and 100% going all the time. And because we actually are the life of the business. If you think about without IT today, most of your companies are not going to work. So they need to give us a little respect. Next time you go for your pay raise, you mentioned that. So CAPEX is actually bigger than OPEX. No, I'm wrong. OPEX, my operational expense over 3 years, you will find you'll spend more money on your operating expense than you will your capital expense. In India, if I spend $1,000 US on a server, I can amortize it over 3 years. So from a CFO point of view, that's only $300, 33 cents. But if that device takes a large amount of power, he's going to come look for you. I want to talk about open architecture. So how many people here run a proprietary network, which means it's locked down by the vendor? Okay. The problem I had building data centers that are proprietary has been I can't change. If I find XYZ company with a better server or a better storage or a better anything, I can't put it on my network because that network is running proprietary protocols. Dell, we're very, very much against that. We are very big in the open source community, and we have tools that we give to the open source. What's changed in the network? So in the old days, the traffic has changed, the pattern. One server, one CPU. That traffic was called north-south traffic. The traffic came from the user, came down through all that, came back. But today, it's different. We're using Java, we're using HTML, HTML5, and that traffic is now east to west. So I'm going to give you a little bit of traffic design here. Unfortunately, the animation I had here I lost. But let's take a query here. So customer wants to look at, I just want to get my images back from my storage, right? So the request is going to come into the core. So this is our traditional design. This is called a three-tier architecture, and I guess anybody in India pretty much runs like this. So we have our two core, big chassis products, comes down, goes to the end of the row, to the top of the rack, and it goes to the server. The server takes a 50K file request, a URL request, that says, please give me back my images. Well, first thing I have to do is find out who you are. So the users are over here. So I have to come up to the core, down to the end of row, to the top of row, to this cluster over here. Now, that was just to ask who you are. Now I need the images. Then I got to come up, do another request, come down here, come down to this server farm, pull the images. You see how many hops that I have to take? The traffic is this direction. Why? Because it's virtualized. We don't know where it is. We might think we know where it is, but it could be in any of these clusters. So, but I can designate clusters, but this may be my database cluster, this may be my JPEG cluster. So, you know, I've got to move my traffic east and west. Now, what's changed? A new approach of where we can now build a new network that's flat and very fast. Now, this image, for those of you who use Cat5, and I'm not a fan of Cat5, I'll tell you, because for every one of these links, I've got 0.024 copper connecting to 0.024 copper. I've got a physical PHY in here. I've got buffering. So I've got one physical connection to physical connection, physical connection. You see all of these connections? Every connection has a place for fault, a place for mistakes, a place for failure. Guarantee you, anything you own in electronics will fail. I know that. So I need to design my network to support that. So we have a new approach, which we call distributed core fabric. The distributed core is very cool. Why? Because it can take very fast, very, very high density products, and I can make the network very fast. And I will demonstrate this. So I have some 40 gig switches. You can say 40 gig is too fast for me. No, it's not the speed. It's what I can do on one port. So let's take a 1 gig example. On 1 gig, I can put 1 VM, 2 VMs, okay? Maybe 100 or so VLANs. But if I move that and make that a 10 gig, so this area here is top of racks are 10 gig, and on 10 gig, I can put maybe 10 VMs, thousands of VLANs. I change now. Density. And we'll talk about why I want density. But let's look at how we hop here. So this has 128 10 gig ports. So it's a 40 gig backplate. I'll talk about this product. But the bottom here, I have a special cable that's a 40 gig switch. And I always carry cables with me. This is a 40 gig optics, QSFP plus, and this breaks out to 410 gig. So on this 32 port, 40 gig product, I can actually have 128 10 gig, or a combination. So I'm going to use combination. I'm going to have 10 gig come down, and then 40 gigs to go between these devices. So now you see the other change. Before we put our firewalls on the top, right? Everybody put your firewall at the top, put your load balancer. What's happening now is the internet is coming straight into the top of rack. Why? Because I can go from this top of rack to this top of rack with just one hop. Whoop, boom. Okay? Very fast. Very, very low latency. Distributed core, you're going to hear about it from us. We can show you how to go from your traditional network to this. We can show you how to build another network that runs in parallel with your existing network. The nice thing about this network, there are no proprietary protocols. It's open source. Everything is open. So we can show you how to do this. Now this is the product. This product is very cool. So everybody, 2U is how big? Everybody's fingers. Okay, 2U. 2U, 32, 40 gig ports with my breakout cable. I can get up to 128 line rate, 10 gig. But look at the power. Look at the power. 800 watts, not kilowatts. 800 watts per hour. And that comes down to 6.25 watts per 10 gig. Okay? Now, why is this interesting? Hey, I'm barely on a 1 gig network. But if I can consolidate all my traffic, I can do less. And when we have less, there's a lot more advantages. And the advantages are, number one, power. So I'm going to design a network that supports 1,536 servers. Yeah, I could use a product. If you don't know who C with a product that starts with N, 7018 is, I can't help you. But that company, who I know very well, they have a product, big chassis. That chassis consumes, because I need to run dual, remember? Everything's redundant. This is from 1995. Actually, 1993 at the CCIE courses, we taught this, right? From 1993. Why? Because the traffic was north-south. Now the traffic is east-west. But I can take this, they still sell this, and we still sell this. So I'm not saying that this is not, that the new way is the only way to go. I'm just telling you, if you're looking for fast, low latency, this new way is the way to go. So I can take this product. It requires 13.5 kilowatts per hour to run that box. It takes 25 U per box. That's 50 U. I'm not going to talk about price because I'm not a sales guy. Talk to your sales guy about it. But I can build the same thing with the Z9000 and the S4810 I'll talk about. I can build the same thing for 3.2 kilowatts per hour. If I save you 10 kilowatts per hour, Mr. CFO, times 24, times 365. In India, we pay about 12 to 15. The lowest I've seen is about 9 rupees per kilowatt hour. I believe Delhi, you guys are around 12, right? How much? How much do you guys pay? Anybody know how much you pay? And by the way, do you think with today's petrol prices going up that the electrical prices are going to go down? Okay. And you think the government will tell you far in advance? No. You're going to find out that the power bill went up when the CFO calls you and says, shut something down. Don't run it 24 hours a day. And you say, wait a minute. How can I not run it 24 hours a day? All right? So you need to look at this. So we're going to look at, the other two things that this saves you money. Less packaging requires less racks, requires less cooling. Dell has a group called DCS, Data Center Solutions. They will show you how to build a new data center. That's very, very eco-friendly. Anybody see the eBay award that just came out? That was built by Dell. All right, it's a brand new data center. There's a lot of very cool things happening in data centers. Not only the way that you just see the new Yahoo data center. That building is designed to face to the wind, and it has these really, really tall design, this kind of big roof, like a chicken farm, chicken house, and the wind comes in, goes in filtered, and cools the servers and the storage. It's very cool. They're basically now, if you look at Google's new data center, the way they designed it, and I can tell you how later if you want, with that new design, they saved $3 million on power. So if I can save you cooling costs, and by the way, the new data centers, we don't cool the data center. We only cool the racks. And there's a special design, we can show you how. So if I can save you on the cooling, and because we are not, so the nice thing about chassis are high density. But to get to the longest part, I may have to run single mode fiber. Or if in short runs like this, I can run multi-mode fiber cheaper. I can run DAC even cheaper. But I can run shorter, cheaper cables. Huge difference. So power, less cabling, less area to cool, less real estate, and the products are cheaper anyway. That's what your CFO cares about. Now you say, hey, can the big boys do it? No. These products were designed 6-7 years ago. They're designed for high power consumption. These are new products, low power consumption. Now, fixed versus chassis. Anybody loves chassis? I used to. Why? Well, we thought they were cool. They're high density. But Our friends up in Redmond gave us a very interesting, in case you don't know, Forstin runs and Microsoft have the Bing and the Azure products. We support those guys. And those guys came and told me a very interesting thing. Everybody knows Moore's Law, right? If you've been in IT, we know Moore's Law. And Moore's Law says things will double. In the chassis business, because the backplane and everything is fixed, I can't just upgrade it. So, but I can, if this is 32 ports of 40 gig, I could pull that thing out, put a new 64. I'm not saying we have one, but if you understand Moore's Law, density gets high. I can take that 32, 40 gig and move it someplace else. So we do have a lot of products. That's the nice thing about having fixed versus chassis, because I can quickly move things around. Now, we just made an announcement, TFTP server, and when that device boots, it gets its configuration, its I/O, its OS, everything. So then that device comes up. Once it's up, then the Dell Fabric Manager will verify that that network, as installed, matches the design. Anybody who's done a network realizes that sometimes we say, oh, screw it, let's do it this way. Okay? This will make sure that your original design is there. Now, I just talked about the open automation tools. So we have 5 parts to it. I'll only cover a couple of them. But bare metal provisioning is the one I just talked about. Why is this cool? So if you have to install 30, you guys know Zynga, the gaming guys? Well, we developed this actually for them. They had to install 30 switches a day. Their data center has about 30,000 servers in it. So you can realize how many switches they have. To do that, so anybody install switches before? All right, you guys know you type in the CLI, you do enable, you change the default password. Oh, the OS is wrong. I've got to TFTP the OS back down, and I got to do the configuration, and then I got to set the root password, and I misspelled the root password, but that's okay. We'll worry about that later. And then the box goes in production, and then somebody else comes to support it. The root password is wrong. The box is dead, can't be used. I have to now reset it in production. Doesn't make people happy. The nice thing about this is I can have my professionals, everybody who's built the data center in this country knows, we have, to be honest, we have 4 or 5 guys in our data center who are the guys who know everything. And we have a bunch of guys who are learning, who are watching. But I can take those guys and I can have them build the scripts. I can have them build the profiles, the config files that go into TFTP server. I can have them verify it. The next part we have is scripting. So anything you can CLI that you do, I can write a script that says, at 6 p.m., I want you to give VLAN 82 the highest QoS. Why? Networking guys, storage guys? Because I'm about to back up. And that QoS only lasts for 5 hours. So I can write these scripts of things that I would do as a network manager. When my storage guy came to me, I would then set that up every night for him. I can run scripts that run daemons that does it for me automatically. I can also write scripts that locks down my system. We have a very big gaming company. They are our customer because their original provider crashed for 3 days because a network administrator made a mistake. And they said, never at our site. So from them, from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m., they disable all logins except for the root, because you can't block that. So all users are knocked off. Why? Because their A team works in the day, and their B team works at night. They don't want that night guy thinking he's really cool, and he just learned something from that school he went to yesterday, and he wants to try a command out in my production environment. So they're very careful. Now, next big area, virtualized servers. This is very cool. How many people have virtualized? All right? When you virtualize and you try to do a vMotion, or moving, if the Ethernet port doesn't go with it, then it doesn't work. I mean, unless I'm staying on the same switch. But what happens when I want to change switches? What happens when I want to change cities? What happens when I want to change subnets? All right, those last 2 we're coming out with very soon. The first one, our switches are VMware, Zen, Microsoft very soon to be Microsoft Aware. So the QoS that goes with that VM, the IP address that goes with that VM, we know how to move it. So we also have management tools. Now we're open. You can use our management tool. And our management tools are actually open to allow us to manage other parties, other companies. But we've written the links and the APIs to be with the HP OpenView, your Tivoli, your all of these guys. Why? We believe in open. So this is our network management tool. It's very cool. What I like about it is the traffic flow analysis. It will tell you that your SAP is taking 72% of your network traffic. Is that good or bad? Yeah. If it's bad, I need to figure out why. Who's doing it? Maybe somebody's doing something. Maybe there's a rogue daemon running. This will allow you to do that. So again, if you have vendor lock-in, you are subject to what the vendor tells you you can and cannot do. With open, it's bad for Dell because if I don't perform, I'm not Michael Dell, but if you're Dell, as a company, if we don't perform, you're open. So you have a right to change. That requires us to be very innovative all the time. So you've got to look for people in your organization and yourselves that what is best for my company. Many people in this industry, and I'm going to get on my soapbox, I'm going to talk here. A lot of people here just say, listen, I'm going to buy from vendor, C, because, they've been around and they're, I can't get fired for that. But the problem is you'll find that those products are not innovative. They don't save you in power. They don't save you in real estate. They don't have a lot of the cool features. They have a lot of features. But if you want to know what the web.to is, what Facebook wants and what Zynga wants and Yahoo wants, they want very small, compact operating systems. So the nice thing about the Dell Force 10 is our Force 10 OS is the same CLI as Cisco. So if you can run the Cisco switch, you can run Force 10 switch. So what I like about Dell these days is how we're bringing everything together. So every Tuesday night, unfortunately, when I'm in Shanghai, it's like 2 in the morning, all of the CIOs get together, CTOs within Dell, and luckily I get to listen in. And they talk about, and I listen, about how the networking team and the server team and the storage team and the security team, how they work together. Because that's going to be the difference. And we have products today, and we're working on more. How do we get fiber channel, iSCSI, compute, layers 4 through 7, layers 1, 2, 3, all working, so that the server knows what the storage is doing, and the storage knows what the server is doing. So we got to know what's going on. So a couple of products I'll talk to you about that work with storage very, very well, and why. So we have an S60, which is a very high buffer product. So normal, our S55, which is our very low latency product, comes with about 4, and then most of your switches are 4 or 8 MB, very low buffers. But for some people who want to do large database access or streaming, we have the S60, which is a 1.2 gig switch. So the memory is hundreds times bigger. Why? Because I have 10 servers writing data to a 1 gig storage. Do you see a problem? So if I have a buffer, I can buffer all of that. So that's a very, very cool product. Now I want to do this in 10 gig. So we have the S4810, 48 ports of 10 gig in a 1U. 1U. Very ultra low latency. So these products, if you are interested, we have design guides, we have reference guides for EqualLogic, for Compellent. All right, our guys can help you out with that. Now, whoops, go back. So the S4810 is very, very popular here in India because why? Speed, line rate, so 10 gig in, 10 gig out. It's got 40 gig uplinks, so I can build my network out. And as I said earlier, we have our integrated open automation, and we have our virtualization support. So, what did we announce in the last couple of days? A new switch, our MLX switch. So how many have heard of the M1000E? That is the new Dell. Actually, I thought I had a picture in here. That's the new Dell 10RU quarter blades. Each blade has 2 CPUs. So there's 32 blades in one 10U. Okay? 32 blades, 2 CPUs, 8 core each. Total of 512 core in 10U. Think about the power savings. Think about the space savings. Now, I add basically our S4810. We made a blade out of it. And now I connect to those 32 servers at 10 gig copper backplane, passive copper backplane. No cabling. No loss. No need for buffering. No need for PHY. All right? Speed. Low latency. Using the same Force 10 OS, it's a very cool product. It changes. Now you think about it. A 10U. If I buy a Compellent as how many U's? 4U? Or more? Right? I now have a whole data center in a half a rack. So I have 10 gig and to the servers. So it's top of rack. I have local switching. And now because I can do my east-west traffic extremely, extremely fast. So before, you had to go out to the SAN, to the LAN. Now this device supports DCB, data center bridging. Supports iSCSI. It supports FCOE. When you plug in iSCSI, it recognizes and goes, hey, that's iSCSI. All right, let me configure for that. So it's a very cool product. Now, what I just said, I can go from server to storage to network to the edge, out, into in, line rate 10 gig. Now, we have 1 gig products. Yes, we do. But what I'm telling you, the reason to go to 10 gig is not 10 gig. It's not the speed. It's not one user on 10 gig. It's going to be the 100 users, the thousands of VMs. Sorry, hundreds of VMs, thousands of users on one. Now, the nice thing about this network that I haven't explained compared to the old way, in the old days, if I lost one chassis, I lost 50% of my business. And this, if I lose one of these, I only lose 25%. So again, if you look at eHarmony, anybody know eHarmony? Okay, you shouldn't. That's a dating service. eHarmony CIO told me he does not want to be at 5 nines. He wants to be at 100% up. If he's down for 1 hour, he loses $500,000 US. Not just in advertising and users, but in PR. So when your site goes down, how many people are on Twitter and all of the IM sites and all the sites, social sites saying, that company sucks. Their network was down. Okay? That's worth a lot of money. So we can give you now good end-to-end 10 gig. Now I want to show you this slide because we do support things like multi-tenants. We do have the products. Dell AIM, help you set everything up. We're big in OpenStack, virtualization, software-defined networking, open automation, and orchestration. You're going to hear the word orchestration. That's a big word now in the IT business. But we have the products, we have the tools. We just acquired a company called Sonic Wall. You'll see them merged in very soon to what we do. So we do have an end-to-end solution. We are fully workload aware. So our products are VMware, Citrix, Microsoft aware. So how is Dell going to help me? I'm over by 5 minutes. That's okay. We have the people. We have the products. We have the software that can help you. We have a company, anybody want to be in the SaaS business? If you want to be in the SaaS business, we have a product called Boomi. Boomi will show you how to set and be in the SaaS business very quickly. How many people have mainframe, AS400, old software that runs on a single thread, or old Windows software that runs on single core? Doesn't support multi-core. We have a product called Make Technologies. That product will actually go and analyze your old software and show you how to make that into a product that will work in a cluster environment. Okay, Make Technologies. We have the tools. We have a company called SecureWorks. Anybody want to do any banking? Anybody do banking? Anybody do credit cards? If you want to do credit card business, you need to be PCI compliant. The #1 PCI compliant software in the world happens to be owned by Dell. It's called SecureWorks. They have all the tools and everything to help you be PCI compliant. So, finally, we have the products. We work very closely with Microsoft, Oracle. We have our Dell AIM, our Viz, these products to help you with each of the components. We have our Sonic Wall. We work closely with F5. We have all of our own, our Z series. Our E series are the big chassis, so we do have big chassis. If you look at if you want to know what the big boys Yahoo run on, they run on big chassis still. But they're now moving off the big chassis onto the distributed core architecture. So we have wired, we have wireless. We work closely in this. I do a lot of work in SDN today. How many people are looking at doing Hadoop? Anybody doing big data? All right, I'm going to give you 2 minutes. You can listen to. So I do a lot of work in Hadoop also. What is big data? Big data just means that every data I have is important. You don't think it's important, but I'll show you how. So if you want to know how Google figures out what goes on in their network, they use Hadoop, big data analytics. They not only track what you do, they track everything. They want to know. I'll give you an example. They're trying to figure out how to distribute their network, where it goes. So they took a year and did a bunch of surveys using Hadoop, taking traffic in the city of Chicago from different parts of the city. Then they analyzed that against the income level, against unemployment for that area, against weather. When you take all those data elements, you can build a trend, and that I can tell you tomorrow it's hot in Delhi. I expect 22% rise over normal traffic in my internet because people are too hot to go outside. I can tell you that the weather is 30 degrees or 28 degrees in Delhi. I expect my traffic to be low. Now, what does that do? I then take those VMs and I move them to another department or another company, and I let them do all the processing that they're backlogged on. Or I'm going to make sure what they do, for example, in Chicago, when there's high unemployment, people go, they're on the internet more or less? More. They go to gaming sites or to job sites? Job sites. And at night they go to gaming sites. No, actually the funny story about that, places with high employment, people go to gaming sites more than job sites. So it means that people who are always worried about getting a job, when they get a job, then they start playing games. Okay? That's why they got fired in the first place. So we have the tools. So we have a product called Crowbar. Crowbar will help you set up big data analytics. We'll set you up with the Ubuntu and all of that. We have a new announcement with Ubuntu on developer, on special laptops that have Ubuntu built into them if you want to develop for that environment. So we have all of that. Our networking portfolio, very strong. From 1 gig layer 2 to 128 10 gig at 2U. So we have the products. We have the tools. And by the way, we're now adding all the Sonic Wall products in. All I'm asking you guys, if you get a chance for a networking opportunity or you have a problem, forget networking. When you have an issue and you want to do something, give us a call. That's all I ask. and give us a chance to prove that the open and the way we do business is a bit more advantageous to you and your company than what other people are doing today. That's what makes me excited. As a guy who builds data centers, I'm very excited. By the way, in case you don't know, the DCS team, we build special switch servers just for people like Tencent. Anybody know Tencent in China? One of the largest companies in the world. Tencent, we make a server just for them that you can actually buy also. We make a special Hadoop server. It's a cluster-based solution, special servers. You don't see them on the regular price list. You don't see them on the website. You ask our guys, they can get that for you. So again, end-to-end products, end-to-end solution. We work together well. I know the networking, the storage guys, they know my team. My product managers know them. They work together. Because I believe the future is, as Michael Dell says, you know, Michael Dell was very famous for making laptops and desktops into a commodity. Networking, storage, servers, they're all going to become commodities in the future. What's the difference? The difference in Dell is the applications, it's the out-of-band management on the 12G servers, it's the software, it's the service. So that's really, and that's why our networking servers and storage guys work together, because we believe that you need to understand what's going on. ReadySpace, this is my last slide. They're a big cloud management tool, big Dell Force 10 customer, and they have Dell servers and Dell Force 10 switching. Their whole issue, as big as they are, they sell rack space, right? So people go in there. Their whole issue is space, power, real estate. How to do more with less, how to manage less devices. So in India, we've made a lot of big investments. I come here as much as I can every quarter. And if you want me to come more, please tell my team. I'm happy to come. But by the way, we're #1 in the world in 40 gig. We're #3 in 10 gig. And we're growing. We've invested millions of dollars in this market, and we believe in it. Thank you. Any questions? No applause unless you're standing up in big block. No. Where's my buddy? Where are you? There he is. Okay, guys, I'm going to point this laser pointer at him. See the guy right there that guy? All right, he's the man. He's my man. He knows everything. He can help you guys if you have any questions. But if you have any questions now, I'll be happy to take it. If not, I thank you guys for spending your last hour with me. And it's up to you now. Oh, we've got to do the drawing. All right. Listen, you guys can go home. I'll just do the drawing myself. You have to be present to win.